You want a new time, 6:38?
That's fine.
Okay. Mr. M. Berenson?
Here.
Ms. DeVoe?
All right, here.
Ms. Ford?
Her speaker's not, her speaker's not on.
Her mic is off. Ms. Ford?
Raise your hand.
Okay.
Here.
Mr. Schmidt?
Here.
Mr. Tuari? Mr. Tuari?
Commissioner Tuari, you have your computer set to call in for audio. You need to switch it over to computer audio.
We're shipping in.
Okay.
Okay. Commissioner Tuari, are you able to hear me?
Can you send him a text or something? Hope he has his cell phone next to him.
He does. He's been texting me. That's why I'm sitting with one right now.
There, he's looking at the text.
Yeah, he is. I just sent him something.
Okay.
What is this? Social Security. Huh.
We'll get this in 2021.
You hope.
I'm hoping we can be back in person in 2021.
We gotta upgrade his technology infrastructure at this home.
Andy, do we have enough budget for carrier pigeons? All right. I see Mr. Surendra Mr. Tuari's gone off screen again. So.
Yeah.
All right. We still have 5, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
1, 2, 3.
Yes.
4.
All right. He's here. He's got a thumbs
I
up.
told him to give me a thumbs up if he can at least do roll call. So we got him. Good.
Okay.
And Chairman Galtieri.
Here. All right.
Okay.
I would ask that everybody mute while we do the Pledge of Allegiance. It is at your discretion if you want to stand or not. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. In accordance with the provisions of Chapter 231, New Jersey Public Laws of 1975, the Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by the giving a notice to the Courier News, posting the agenda in the public lobby of the Authority building 48 hours prior to this meeting, delivery of this notice to the Franklin Township Clerk at least 48 hours prior to this meeting, and mailing notice to those persons properly requesting to be mailed notification of meetings at least 48 hours prior to this meeting. And Mr. Attorney.
In addition, since this meeting is being conducted electronically pursuant to the COVID-19 pandemic, this meeting is being handled by video, GoToMeeting, as per the approval of Chapter 11 of the Public Laws of 2020 and subsequently issued local finance notices from the Local Finance Board, Division of Local Government Services, State of New Jersey, Department of Community Affairs.
Thank you, sir. With that, next on our list is on our agenda is the presentation of the fiscal year ending May 31st, 2020 audit by Mr. Hodgeley. Take it away, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, everyone, members of the board. Pleasure to be here remotely. We're going to review the fiscal year 5/31/2020 financial statements. With us this evening is manager on the job, Dana Montanelli. and she will take us through the particulars of the financial statements, and hope we'll get a brief overview on that. And then if obviously there are any questions after that, we can open it up to questions, okay? So Dana, all yours.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having us. So I'm just going to keep it high level with everything in this report, but please feel free to stop me at any point if you want me to get into anything further or if you have any questions. You're going to notice that this draft that was sent out is marked draft. We are waiting on a couple of things that we're working on with April and Joe to wrap this up, and then we'll be able to issue a final report. There is one item that will probably change the numbers a little bit, and I'll show you where that will change as we move through the report. But we have to, it sounds like we're going to be making an adjustment to the liability to the township. We're just waiting on a final memo from Joe on exactly what will be paid based on the township appropriation that was budgeted. So with that being, Joe, are you talking? I see your mouth moving, but you're on mute.
Just for your the board's edification, what she's referring to is the municipal appropriations. The year prior, we had budgeted one amount and paid less than that. And then this last budget we did in June, we put that same amount. And she wants clarification in writing. Why is there a difference in what we budgeted versus what we paid out? Because what we did not pay out the previous year, she's looking at that as a standing liability, when in fact we know we ain't paying that. So
exactly. So just for our audit file, we just need like an official statement, like something in writing that we can put in our file. We'll write down the liability based on what you truly are going to pay. So with this draft, if you flip to page 1, I have a paper copy, so this is page 1 of the actual paper copy. This is our independent auditor's report. This is where we give our opinion on the financial statements. And we are pleased to report that we have an unmodified audit opinion, which is a clean audit opinion, and that is the highest level opinion that we can give. Yes, congratulations. So that means that your financial statements are free from material misstatements. I'm going to flip ahead to page 13. So these are your actual financial statements. Page 13 of the paper report. And on page 13, you're going to see at year end, the authority ended with total assets and deferred outflows of resources in the 2020 column of $101 million. And then on the liability and fund equity side, you're going to see that the authority ended with liabilities of $39 million at the end of this last year. Most of that is the loans payable with the iBank. And then below that, you can see your net position numbers. And at year end overall, you ended with a net position of $58,298,000. That net position did decrease slightly from the year before, about $755,000 or about 1%. And within that net position category, you can see your breakdowns of what's invested in net capital assets, how much we have restricted for debt service, operating, other purposes, and then your unrestricted net position, which at year end is $897,000. That operating restricted line is highlighted because that's something we're still working on with Joe to confirm that we have the right amount in there, so that just may change slightly. It'll just be a reclass between categories, but it wouldn't change your bottom line. So I'm going to flip to page 14, the very next page, which can show you how we got to that decrease in the net position. So this is your income statement. And on page 14, you'll see that you had operating revenues this year of $14,324,000. That was a decrease of approximately 1% from the year before. But you'll actually see if you look at your first line item there, your service charges actually did increase this year. They went up about 3.6%. And the overall decrease in revenue is really attributed to the connection charges. So you just had some larger connections in the prior year. Below that, you can see the operating expenses of the authority. They were up this year. Operating expenses increased about $2.2 million. All of that really was in the operations and maintenance line item, and that was attributed to the emergency repair work for the Weston Canal. And then there was an increase in charges from the MCUA and North Brunswick. Below that, towards the bottom of the page, we have our overall change in net position, which this year was a loss of $754,000. So I'm going to flip again to one more page that I think is useful to look at, which is page 45 of the report. Page 45 is the budget to actual, just so that you can see how you did compared to your budget figures. So the first column on this statement is the budget amounts from the state budget. And then the second column are the actuals. So this year revenues did come in. I'm sorry about my dog barking, by the way. I don't know if you can hear that. Revenues did come in over budget, about $775,000.
I'm sorry, Dana, where are you saying that?
So on page 45, I'm looking at the revenue section, which is like the top section of that statement.
Right.
And you'll see there's a budget column there, and then right next to it an actual column. So that's your 2020 budget. I'm really sorry, my dog is like going crazy right now. That is your 2020 budget, and then that second column is your 2020 actuals. So towards the middle of the page, you can see you have total revenues budgeted of $14,426,000, but your revenues actually came in at $15,201,000. So you were over budget on your revenue of $775,000. The next part of that statement are your operating expenses. So for 2020, the operating expenses that were budgeted were $11,319,000. And then in the actual column, you can see that they came in higher at $13,404,000. So the expenses did go over this year, and that really is attributed again to the emergency repair work for the Weston Canal and the increases in MCUA charges and the North Brunswick charges. So I'm going to flip again to page 51, I believe it is. 52. We got a couple more opinions there. Page 52 is our internal control opinion over financial reporting and non-compliance. And page 54 is our single audit opinion. We have to do a single audit on the NJI Bank money as they're being spent, as those funds are being spent for those projects. And we are also pleased to report that both of those opinions, our internal control opinion and our compliance opinion, are also clean opinions. We did not identify any issues there. Yes. So I'm going to flip ahead one last time to page 70. And this is our general comments and recommendations. So if we did have any issues with the audit, this is where these items would go. And you can actually flip ahead to page 74, which is the last page of the report. And as you can see, we do not have any formal recommendations in this report. So congratulations. We had a very pleasant audit. Just want to thank you so much. Thank you, April. I know that we pull a ton of stuff, and everything was turned around so quickly, and it was a huge help. And with everything going on with COVID, everyone was so accommodating, and we really appreciate it. So, Andy, do you want to add anything, or?
You covered it very well, Dana. Thank you.
Okay.
Any questions?
All right. Does anyone? Yeah. Any questions?
So I guess one of the questions I have is, and this is looking forward to next year, I think a bunch of our loans are finally starting to get paid off next year. So that should put us, yes, that should look better on, at least on the report for the, I guess, the 2021 audit, correct? So that, I guess that would be assumed to be a better financial position then, once we start closing out some of those bonds. not to say we're not taking on more debt, but
Right.
on
Yeah,
paper it should look better, right?
Your debt position, Mr. Chairman, is consistent in terms of what you're paying off from year to year. You're not going to see a dramatic decrease in your debt from 2020 to 2021, but as you say, you are paying it down, so that will obviously improve your position, but not you won't see a dramatic difference.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, we're always going to be borrowing.
Yeah. Yeah,
Correct.
you pay some off and then you issue more. We did have a new loan issuance this year with the iBank for the 2020 loan that converted. It was a construction loan and now it became a full on like loan issuance. So just to add to that too, on page 62, if you're ever curious, I'm sure you already saw it, but there's a whole schedule of all of your upcoming bond and loan payments. So that's a nice little illustration of everything you have outstanding.
What page?
62.
It's on page 62. It's schedule 6 on page 62, schedule of bonds and loans payable, and that goes on for 5 pages, 6 pages actually. I have to fix that. But yeah, that goes through all of your outstanding balances, and as you said before, like you can see on page 62 on that first page, like the first 2 loans on there are going to be paid off next year.
Mhm.
And then I guess one other question. Actually, I just lost my train of thought. So, I guess one thing to note is that hopefully we won't be taking as large of a bond as Rodney Avenue. So as that slowly gets paid down, that is a significant bond that we had to do. As that slowly goes, then our borrowing should decrease also. We'll still have to borrow for other projects, as everybody said, but just keep in mind that is a significant project that typically the authority doesn't take on. So, okay. Any other questions from commissioners?
I just have one comment. I look at the patterns of revenue and the expenses. So I just wanted to, for the executive director to pay attention to the drop in revenue and increase in expenses, although both of them can be explained for last year, but that could down the road put some stress on our rate to the taxpayers. So I would just say that that pattern, if it continues into this year, we probably have to either tighten the expenses or look into making a higher revenue, especially if the connection fees continue to decline over the years.
Can you put that on my account?
Anything else? Any other commissioners? All right, last call. Hearing
Good
nothing
job.
else. Thank
Good
you very
job.
much.
Yep, nice job, Executive Director, April, and the rest of the staff. I think to get a clean audit like this, it's really a cap in the feather in your cap.
And we won't beat up Scott too much for being.
You know, Andy came in here with an attitude. I thought we were doomed.
We won't beat up Scott too much for Western Canal. He takes care of the rest of the system really well. So we'll let him slide on that one.
Oh.
No, overall, I mean, even all joking aside, even operations keeps our expenses under control. We know that the operations team does a lot of things in-house that keeps that offsets a lot of other expenses that we might have. So overall, to the entire staff, excellent job. This is phenomenal work, and hopefully we'll. I think Commissioner Barrison, you are still anxious to see if we can do some investments. So maybe once make a little more interest than zero. So maybe once COVID finally disappears and revenues start leveling off, maybe that's something we can reevaluate again. But for now, I think we have to stay pretty steady as we're going. And I know Andy's smiling there because he knows that's a hot topic that we like to discuss. But definitely, let's. I think right now we just have to make sure that money is available so we can keep operating under the current environment.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, before we cut Andy loose, and in the interest of time efficiency, one of my discussion items on my report was involving New Brunswick. I'd like to jump to that discussion item because it does involve Andy, our staff, and our attorney.
Okay. Wait, before we do that, any other comments or questions for Andy and Dana for the audit? Okay. Go ahead, sir.
Andy, you give me that look like you know nothing about it.
I'm with you, Joe. I got you.
All right. So to update us on New Brunswick, we were invited to a pretty significant meeting by the New Brunswick staff, all their stakeholders, and our stakeholders. We had scheduled that, and then the day before that meeting, or 2 days before, I canceled it based upon the recommendation of Joe Jamel from CME. And the reason I canceled that was because we were not in a good discussion or negotiating position, and I agreed with them, and that was a good catch, by the way, Joe. So instead of having a meeting with New Brunswick stakeholders, we had a meeting all among ourselves and decided that it was best to bring Andy Hodgelick in and get his services to help us all. So basically, we need to figure out ourselves, independently from New Brunswick, how much they should be charging us and how much we want to pay. And that's not always a straightforward answer. So we're sending flow to them. That flow ends up at Middlesex County Utilities Authority. So that's one expense. But then there's infrastructure that New Brunswick owns and maintains that we're using. So how they come up with the margin to add on top of that can vary greatly. So in order to assess their infrastructure costs and operations, we basically need to figure out what their infrastructure is worth, how much their overall cost is, and what percentage of that should we be responsible for. We can't do that without basically the services of an auditor. So once we get an opinion from Andy, once we get an opinion from Andy of certain costs and percentages, then we can have a conversation with New Brunswick because we'd be armed with that information.
Right.
To get from where we are to there, we have to contract with Andy for those services. And then we have to utilize CME, Andy, and our attorney in conjunction with our staff, which would be Scott and Christian. Andy, did I summarize that accurately?
Yes, well done, Mr. Executive Director. Correct, yes.
Thank you. Joe Jamel, you concur with what I just said?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And Christian, do you have anything else to add to that? You're muted, sir.
Oh, sorry. I said what you said is accurate. Everything is good.
Oh.
We have a strategy moving forward. So
all right, Andy, you want to just summarize real quick what you're going to do? Oh, did you send me an estimate?
Yeah, I did send you an email, Joe. Yeah, a couple of days ago. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, at the end of the day, New Brunswick, they provide some calculations, but it's really not clear, or it's not a really straightforward presentation in terms of how actually they developed what they charge to you to Franklin. They include, there's basically a operating and maintenance fee that is supposed to be included in your charges, but they seem to also be including charges for infrastructure, so debt service. So we want to go through those schedules and make sure we totally understand what New Brunswick is submitting and decide on the authorities' end what a fair bill structure should be based on the revised flow through the system.
Okay.
So, Mr. Interim Executive Director, the number one question is, do we have the budget available for this? the funds available in the budget. Because I don't want Dana and Andy coming back next year saying we overspent on line items, you know.
Andy's given me a number not to exceed of $9,500.
Right.
Okay.
That's a drop in a bucket if you compare just a variant of what we could be paying, what we might be paying New Brunswick. So even if we didn't have it in a budget, we got to find that money.
Right.
You know, where we pull that from is artistic license.
As you say that in front of our auditors, thank you, sir.
Well,
All right.
Mr. Chairman, your budget has broad categories, so I think that's what yeah.
I know.
You could pull it out of the New Brunswick line item.
Right.
Understood. So all joke aside, the next steps do you need a motion and to proceed with this and a vote from the board? What's the next steps that you would need in order to proceed?
Chairman, I don't necessarily know we need an action item unless our attorney tells me otherwise. I bring this up for transparency and just so you know what's going on.
We need a motion, a second, to authorize Mr. Hudelak and his firm to provide guidance and assistance to the authority regarding its contract with the city of New Brunswick in an amount not to exceed $10,000. Certifications of funds will occur.
Is there a motion for what Mr. Bernstein said?
So moved.
And is there a second? Okay, thank you. Let's do
We
roll
need
call.
another
please.
motion to determine how to pronounce Andy's last name.
No worries. Okay.
Who did the second? I got Commissioner Barronson on the
And
motion.
Commissioner DeVoe.
Okay, thank you.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Barronson,
Yes.
Ms. DeVoe,
Yes.
Ms. Ford,
Yes.
Mr. Tawari,
Yes.
and Chairman Galtieri.
Yes. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Interim Executive Director.
All right. With that, I think we can let Dana and Andy go unless there's anything else.
Thank you, folks. Great seeing
Thank
you
you.
all.
Thank
Yes,
you.
stay well.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thanks, Andy.
Bye.
Andy, if you need anything, give me a call.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. With that, we will return to our original schedule. Is there a motion to open the meeting for public comments?
Motion.
Second.
Tawari.
Okay. All those in favor of opening the meeting for public comments, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right. Do we have anybody from the public on the call? All right. Seeing nobody from the public coming forward, is there a motion to close the meeting for public comments?
So moved.
So moved.
Okay. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Thank you. All those in favor of closing the meeting for public comments, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Anybody opposed? All right. With that, next on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the working session monthly board meeting minutes from November 4th, 2020. Hopefully everybody's had a chance to review that. Are there any questions, concerns, clarifications? All right, hearing none, is there a motion to approve the working session monthly board meeting minutes from November 4th, 2020?
Motion, Tawari.
Second, Ram.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Mr. Barronson,
Yes.
Ms. DeVoe,
Abstain.
Ms. Ford,
Yes.
Mr. Tawari,
Yes.
and Chairman Galtieri.
Yes. Moving along, on to the professional report section. Mr. Danielson, would you like me to ask for the professionals to report on their own this evening?
I'll call them up one by one. I'm just going to run through my summary and I'll call the professionals to add to it, if you don't mind. Under legal, Somerset Somerset Street Pump Station, the original project, we're going to begin legal action in parallel with getting him to be motivated to close out his account. Bankruptcy list up to the report. Travel policy continues to evolve. The IRS issue, a legal opinion, is still in production. The attorney still supervising, overseeing our projects, and also providing our COVID-19 updates, and also supervising COVID-19 policies and practices. Eric, do you want to add anything else?
I would add just two very quick items. Thank you, Joe. One was an update as you just received regarding New Brunswick. We are hoping to make some progress to try to acquire a new contract with them based on the change situation between the authority and the city, and Andy's assistance along with everybody else's due diligence so far, I think will go a long way toward moving that process along. And as far as the town on the other side of town, I believe called South Boundbrook, what we've heard from them recently is crickets.
Exactly. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
Marcy Street Sanitary Sewer Rehabilitation is green. December 8th, 2002, the bids will return. So far, we have 14 responses. Joe, do you have anything else to add to Marcy Street?
There's been a couple other pickups of the plan documents. I think we're up to 16 now, and we will be receiving the bids next Tuesday, a week from today, at the authority office. I would suggest that we determine a policy for receiving the bids regarding the COVID situation. I've done some bid openings outside, but they were during warmer weather. So we may want to invoke some of the privileges under the executive order for setting up procedures on receiving the bids.
I mean, we could utilize our garage, have the doors open, and invite people. We could probably, it won't be a lot of people. We can keep everyone separated, have standing spots designated, and just do it in an open garage. Scott, is that something that you think we could do?
Absolutely. If that's what we choose, just let me know and we'll have it set up.
Joe Jamel, are you okay with doing like that? And April?
That's perfectly fine here.
Joe and I had actually, Joe Gamel and I had talked about that a couple of weeks back as a thought.
So instead of the conference room, we'll do it in the garage.
Yep.
Okay, good. Anything else on Marcy Street, Joe?
No, that's it.
Okay, Hamilton Street Pump Station is also green. Held a construction meeting. Everything's going smoothly and successfully. All the professionals reporting success. PSE&G, we are still waiting for them to install the meter. There was some movement in the metering piping, and that's all completed. We just need them to install the meter. After successful installation, the generator will be started and training to be conducted thereafter. There was a water line leak due to the workmanship of the township. However, the contract gratuitously repaired it himself to avoid any delays on the project. iBank short-term loan was closed. The money is ready for submittal of requisitions. I think, Joe, how much money was there? $3 million?
3.5, I believe that was.
Three and a half.
Now, just an update, Joe, on the gas meter that was installed today. We were in contact with Robert, the contractor, to make arrangements with the generator manufacturer to do startup and testing, and also the training of the authority staff. So we anticipate that being scheduled and taking place in the very near future. After completion of that and issuance of the temporary CO by the town, we'll be able to occupy the pump station and run through startup and testing. and take it over. I understand that there was also a paving issue, and the contractor will be advised to rectify that. Anything else on Scott?
You get it right on ahead.
Okay.
Joe.
Yes. Yes, sir.
I lost my option to turn on my microphone, and I finally found it. And I had a question on Eric's report. If we could go back to that just for a minute.
Sure.
In number 7 in his report, and this is really a learning opportunity for me. In number 7 in the middle, it says, said negotiations have been affected by authority bringing more pumping stations online, thereby reducing flow. So to me, it's just common sense to me, but obviously I'm wrong. If you're bringing more pumping stations on, I would think you would be able to increase flow. So why is it reducing flow? Can somebody explain that?
I'll explain that, Commissioner Schmidt. So we were sending flow to New Brunswick, right? We cut those pipes off and redirected those pipes to our new pump stations when we brought them online. So they're not going to New Brunswick anymore. So as we bring pump stations online, so we're bringing them online so we can send that flow directly to the Middlesex County Utilities Authority instead of New Brunswick. So as you increase that pump station capacity, you're decreasing it that much that we're sending to New Brunswick.
So where it says therefore reducing flow, it's reducing flow to New Brunswick.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
And that's why actually most commissioners haven't been around enough. So a quick, I guess, history, and somebody can give a little more information once I give this. So there were 3 pump stations intended for that area. The first one having to be Rodney Avenue, which is why it was a $15 or $16 million project. It's a massive pump station that collects from a lot of different locations. Once that went online, then we could start building Hamilton Street and Somerset Street because they are flowing into Rodney Avenue. So that's when somebody correct me. It was 9 connections going into New Brunswick that we've cut down to 2, if I'm not mistaken, or something like that. Yeah, something like that. By bringing Hamilton and Somerset Street on, we've now mostly cut off almost all connections to New Brunswick. So, and this has been an ongoing project for a decade and a half, probably, rough estimate now. Scott used to have a full head of hair also before this, that and Millstone, but that's how
it started back in 2005.
Yep. So, all right. So I was pretty close with my estimate there. So that's the grand plan as to why we've been working to reduce our connections, but unfortunately we can't get 100% off of the connections to New Brunswick at this time.
Good. Thank you for that explanation. I appreciate it. It's clear to me now.
Yeah. And as I said, there's people with much more information, much wiser than I, and more knowledgeable on this. So please feel free to reach out so that you understand this moving forward. If you want, between Joe, Scott, or Joe Gamel, Scott, Howard's aware of this and been in it for a while. So any of our professionals can and staff can help explain it further. Or if you want to take a tour of the stations, certainly, so you can understand the what's going through there.
Well, someday when there is a tour going on, when we are in safer conditions, I would like to take a tour.
Yep.
You know,
Absolutely.
maybe a group of us can do it at the same time, or however you do it.
Yep.
Yeah,
It's absolutely.
I would suggest take a tour of the municipal facilities first, and then come to the sewage authority's facilities, and bring a pad to put under your chin, because your chin's going to be dropped on the floor with amazement how good the sewage authority facilities are, how they're operated, documented, maintained, and cleaned, just how smooth it is. You'll be impressed, Commissioner Schmidt.
Scott, I see you hiding a smile there for some reason.
Because I took a little humor at how Joe put it. I enjoyed how Joe put it.
10 years ago, there was an organization that you're familiar with in town that took a tour with council members of the municipal facilities, And then we came the next day or next week to the sewage authority, and I was like, oh my gosh, sewage authority needs to run the town.
Well, who runs the township facilities? Our DPW?
Mhm. Yeah, the water department. Let's call a ceasefire on targeting our counterparts across onto Mott Lane.
I'm just trying to highlight the operations staff.
And I'm just trying to learn the situation.
Yep, and also Scott knows, as I took the tour with him, there's very little you can find in there. I think the only thing I asked about a chart recorder that was out of service, and that was from my lab days. So and Scott sent me a picture the next day that he had it fixed. So Scott and the staff is truly on it. I do encourage you, when you feel comfortable, reach out to Scott or Joe to take a tour of the facilities.
Yeah.
There's no smell.
Now's a good time to take a tour of the Hamilton Street pump station. It really, really is a nice facility. The contractor did a phenomenal job, engineering, operations staff. It's really nice. It all came together nicely.
All right. Okay. So
All right.
on that side note, are we okay to go back to Joe Gamel reporting on? I think you were talking about Hamilton Street.
He was done with Hamilton Street, so I'm moving on to the next project.
Sorry, one question. I do have a question on it. It appears we, and I'm asking that in a good way, we're on schedule with this, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct? Or within, and we're on budget?
Yes, we're a little bit under our construction budget.
And the reason that I was asking that is because congratulations. This is awesome that this project was able to move along. I know there were a lot of factors in this, and the fact that we kept it on schedule in this current time frame. This is excellent work all around to our staff. So I want to highlight that for the commissioners to realize that the headaches that we've had on other projects, I think we've worked a lot of things out to get better on this. So good job.
Yeah, back in May and June, we had that potential change of conditions issue that we got passed, and we got passed under budget.
Yep. Mr. Tuar, do you have a question?
I just want to ask you, which project are you talking about? I missed that. I'm sorry.
Hamilton Street.
Hamilton, yes.
Oh, Hamilton. Okay.
Okay. With that, moving along.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, the next item was the original Somerset Street pump station. I did color that red because it's just there's no solution to this, which is what brought us to beginning legal action, having Eric send him a letter or do what he feels is necessary to the contractor, who just seems to be, I don't know, recalcitrant or resistant to closing out. But this dragged on for, we've been talking about this for 8 months now. And, the best we got out of him was my understanding is 50% of his, his submittals. So Howard, our engineer, can't think of anything new or different to do. Neither can our attorney. So we're going to approach this two parallel efforts. One, to continue having Howard continue to prod him, and two, have our attorney send him a letter that is evidence of aggression. Not prejudice, but aggression.
Howard, you're going to get me the backup information?
Yeah, I'll follow up with you tomorrow. We can talk about it.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on.
Sorry, can you just clarify? This is that we still owe him money, and he hasn't sent us the bill so that we can pay him the money. Is that correct?
He's requesting some legitimate compensation for items that he worked on, and he can't get us the backup for the claims.
Okay.
So we're trying to process the final closeout change order, and we need the basis for his claims in order to consider them further to close it out.
Okay. Thank you.
Frame this moment, ladies and gentlemen. The chances of seeing this again are slim.
Yeah.
nearly 40 years, I have never seen a contractor fail to submit closeout documents.
Okay. Moving on, East Millstone is green. The last set of drawings were sent to Scott for approval, and the bid should be ready to go out in a few weeks with a return date of approximately 45 days after advertisement. Howard, do you have anything more to add to the East Millstone project?
No. So Scott has like you said, Scott has the drawings. We'll probably talk about them tomorrow. Final specs. Everything will be wrapped up this week, and then I can start talking to April about putting the notice in the paper.
Excellent. So this project is green. It's all going by smoothly on schedule. And at some point, Howard, after we award the contractor with this, then the board's going to take action thereafter for your services, correct?
Yeah, I mean, there's no reason to wait until then, but whenever it works with your schedule.
Okay. And you did send us the proposed amendment to your contract?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, if you have any questions, we can talk about that.
Yeah, I'm going to go through that with Scott and then send that to the board for next meeting.
Okay.
High Bay Garage is green, but nothing new to report. Nothing new with general engineering. And Somerset Street Pump Station Rehab Project, which is being handled by CDM. On that, we're still waiting for PSC&G to issue a determination on the 400 amp service. And Howard doesn't feel it prudent to continue the design work until that determination is made. This delay, in his opinion, is customary and it's not unordinary, whereas we would have to change this from green to yellow. Is that accurate, Howard?
Yeah. That I didn't get a call back from the guy who's been reaching out to PSC&G, but I should know more tomorrow, and I'll reach out to you.
Okay. Chairman, that concludes the executive summary report.
Okay. Any questions for our professionals? Hearing none, on to executive director summary.
Okay, stand by one moment. Okay, revenue looks good for August. For October. Checks were received 1,647,153.60. Year to date collected 5,841,639.32. We have an open balance under accounts receivable of 1,390,641.47. The penalties. Penalties for, I'm not sure. I have September, but it might be October. But they're 21,750.61. Year to date, from March on, it was 145,272.73. This is within 6% of 2019's penalties. So you might want to mark that amount for our discussion when we talk about the penalty waivers. Year to date for revenue, we're at 46%. So overall, my opinion for our revenues, we're doing fine. We're not in any trend. We're not in any unsurmountable dip. We have no warnings. I think on a revenue basis, this is going to end up being an average year, according to all the data that's come in to us so far. Expenditures.
So the penalties for September or October, whatever it is, and March to September, those are to be collected, right? They have not been collected.
I'm sorry, Commissioner, can you repeat that question?
Those penalties are to be collected. They're not part of our collection. They're accounts receivable, right?
The penalties were simply generated, but we're not collecting them. We have forgiven all our penalties.
Oh, we are, okay. All right.
Right?
I know.
Right. So I decided to add that to my report to help you have a discussion later on. Since every month you guys have a discussion, I thought that giving you that data would be instrumental to you.
Okay, thank you. I forgot that.
Okay. Expenditures, $304,453.24. Year to date is $3,309,556.51. We are at 28% of our budgeted expenditures, which is we're doing very well. Now that's going to change because there are some bills that we haven't paid yet, but as of the end of November, we're at 28%. Our cash position is also looking very good. Our unrestricted is $1,339,528.65. Restricted, we have $10,942,750.67. And our designated, $7,865,048.75. Our total is $19,847,328.07. So if you look at our revenue and our expense and then our cash position, we are doing very well. I say that only because we're in a pandemic and I don't want anyone to have any unsubstantiated worries. Under discussion items, our 2020 audit is, I have it completed. It's basically completed. There's some amendments, and you heard the report presented. Our bonding settlement for Hamilton Street is completed. Under COVID-19 status, everything's running successful. The admin and engineering staff are still doing the work from home. Operations staff starting today is going back to the split week duty as we did in the spring. To refresh your memories, what Scott has done is to split his crew into two teams. Team A comes to work as normal. Team B stays home in a semi-quarantine state. And then the following week, Team B comes to work and Team A stays home. Purpose of that, I'll remind you, is if there's an outbreak in either team, at least we could firewall that outbreak between the teams, where one team doesn't contaminate the other team. I mean, it's not a foolproof strategy, but it's the best one we could come up with. If we could come up with something better in the meantime, we could change it in a day's notice. The team that stays home knows that they are obligated to be in a ready state during work hours, that they need to be able to come to work within a quick response period, actually just like the admin staff who work from home. They have to be in a ready state. Unlike the operations staff, the admin staff are actually working when they're at home. It's not possible for the operations staff to clean a wet well while at home.
Joe, let me just add one item to this. So I know the question typically has also been, what's the municipality been doing? The municipality had to go to this for DPW and other departments several weeks ago. So the authority's been, I guess, knock on wood, lucky that our staff's been healthy, but out of abundance of caution, Joe and Scott have decided to go to this, but the municipality went to this several weeks ago due to several cases occurring and some near misses with widespread contamination. So, or widespread infection throughout staff. So, again, a smaller organization, but still just as if vitally important. So we were able to stay. We as the authority were able to stay a little bit longer than the municipality. So we're basically following the same procedures at this point. It sounds like.
Can I throw something out there on this point? Because of the holidays or Thanksgiving, for example, there's likely to be, as we all hear in the news, an impact of that in 5-7 days. So that may be this week, continuing to next week. Is there any consideration for that? I think I like what Scott has done for the crew. That's a very good idea, and other people are doing that. But any consideration for, because of Thanksgiving, there may be some infections, widespread infections. Some people are just closing the work, the physical work for a week, as an impact of, and for the time that impact of Thanksgiving is estimated. I'm making sense. I don't know if I am.
Well, Commissioner Tawari, yeah, I mean, there might be a holiday impact to this, which is why Scott and I wanted to implement the split week work operation. We have to stay not only vigilant, but we have to stay dynamic and have Plan B and Plan C ready. Scott is more than prepared. He has more than thought this through, and the contingencies are in place. But we can only do what we could do.
I'm okay with it. I just wanted to throw it out there because some people are just stopping work for the whole week and say no work.
Yeah. Mr. Tor, what I would say is, and I think Scott can attest to this for sure, the operation staff have to be at those pump stations on a daily basis by regulation. Correct, Scott? That they're required to monitor certain things?
And if not, at least every other day. Correct.
Right. So that's why it's a little more difficult for our operations staff to go down for 2 weeks. And even with that, I don't, seeing the information or receiving the information out of the municipality, even in that case, it's still not a foolproof plan at this point. So I think it's not. I know this was successful back in the spring. Fortunately, we got through in the cases that there was a potential exposure. We had, to use Joe's word, a good firewall. So I think for now, we definitely need to follow the same pattern unless, again, Scott and Joe, I know, and even April's involved with some of the stuff for the admin staff. We have to trust our day-to-day staff, their judgment to make sure that the operations are still going on and the authority is still running. And in this case, again, I will continue to say this every day. Everybody has pulled their weight. They've gotten through this so far. And again, this is amazing work that the team is doing as a whole. So good job overall. And we have to rely on your decision. So if you feel that something needs to change, then use your discretion. But I think we need to trust. We have to trust their opinions and what they're implementing.
I do. Thank you.
So last month we talked about Executive Order 192 that Eric Bernstein brought to our attention. There's really 2 sentences that are relevant to us that are actionable on us. And we are doing that now, but in the next day or two, we're going to have a sign-in sheet that is accompanied by a cover letter that basically explains EO 192 and that the employees will be provided, which already are, but the cover letter will say we're providing you with masks, gloves, hand sanitizer, and that you have to continue the social distance. And before you enter the workspace or your shift, you have to conduct a health survey of yourself, which will include a temperature taking and an assessment of the listed symptoms of COVID-19. And if you have determined in your self-survey that you are negative on all of them, you may sign in and proceed to your shift and enter the building. So being that this is a very dynamic situation with COVID, one I've been managing and one that I experienced myself with my wife and children, I felt the need to have a meeting with the operations staff, which was held yesterday morning, a breakfast meeting with all Scott's staff members, very productive. And I explained to them some of the things that we're managing and dealing with. The overall goal for me was multifold here. One, I wanted to assure the staff that the authority has their back, that COVID would not generate a financial or benefits debit on them if they should fall victim to it at any level. And let me explain what I said. So, it's like if you take this relative to a parent sending their kid to school knowing that kid had a fever just so the parent could go to work. That's a real occurrence, happens all the time. But when it comes to COVID, if an employee feels sick but doesn't want to utilize one of their sick days or loss of pay, they may just come to work because they feel they can brute their way through a day without anyone knowing. My goal is to inspire them to take the most conservative, the safest approach to just report their health concerns to us early on. Yeah, I have a cough. I have a headache. I have body aches. I have chills. I have a low fever. Or, hey, you know what? I was with my son or my cousin the other day and they tested positive. The only way our vigilance will work is if the employees report to us early on, early enough so we know about it before they become contagious, early enough for us, for me, Scott, and April to take action to separate them. We have to do it early and we have to do it decisively. So we need to motivate those staff members. Really, it's really relevant mostly to operation because the admin staff were already separated. So I told them that if they have an unconfirmed contact as defined by the CDC or a confirmed contact defined by CDC, if they show symptoms or if there's a positive residence in their household, whatever the circumstances, from symptoms to any form of contact, they need to report it. Scott and I, or April and I, will make a decision on do they quarantine for 5 days, 10 days, or 14 days. I also asked them to speak up during this process of decision making because I want the staff member to be a part of the decision making, but at a minimum to understand why we made that decision. Part of our decision will be somewhat doing a contact tracing with them. So they know I'm going to ask them, where was the contact? When was the contact? Were there symptoms? How long were you with that person? Without names and so forth, but we need to reverse contact trace this. I opened it up to answer questions and answers. It was an open mic. It was a very fluid two-way conversation. They understand that our formulas for making decisions today will change. They know that they could easily suggest a modification of our decisions, but they also understand we're not going to debit them just for them being honest and open with us about their exposures. I'd rather have a staff member staying home 2 weeks extra instead of them coming to work and potentially exposing one or two of Scott's teams. I have assessed the admin staff and the operations staff, and let me tell you, these are real professionals. These are mature, responsible adults. I see our risk level for abuse near zero. We take very good care of them, and this will be a fluid, a dynamic, and a changing environment for us, and I think we need to stay that way. And I think, Scott and April, I hope I'm speaking accurately for the two of you. I think you're comfortable with the way we're handling things.
100%.
Okay. So I also invited the staff members to come see me, call me on my cell, or even stop by my house if they want to chat about this. So we're going to make a mistake. We're going to make it on the side of caution and the side of compassion and generosity.
Mr. Chairman.
Also,
yes, Mr. Bernstein.
I partnered with the township.
Mr. Danielson, one second. Mr. Bernstein.
I have some potentially good news for the authority, literally hot off the presses.
Okay.
CDC apparently will be issuing new guidelines on quarantine in the next few days. And will be reducing the number of days an individual needs to be out if they have been in contact with an individual who has tested positive for COVID. This is separate and apart from people who have tested positive for COVID. According to the new guidelines, it will be 7 days with a test, 10 days without.
Okay. Right. And that makes sense with the data that's been coming out the last 8 months.
We will obviously follow, and I'm sure that Joe, Scott, and April will continue to do the superb job they're doing regarding this very difficult situation.
So the township had arranged a dedicated testing day for its employees using the same company I brought to Franklin Township to do the community testing. I partnered up with the township to allow all sewage authority staff to get tested as well. It's voluntary. We can't make someone get tested. But I sent an email out on Wednesday to everyone, and I reiterated to the operations staff that I would really like 100% participation in this testing and get all of our staff tested tomorrow, free of charge at the community center tomorrow. So again, it's voluntary, but if anyone were working, that they could leave work and do this on company time at their convenience. So we'll see how things go. There's no mechanism for me to know if they went or not, but I'm guessing Scott's on-duty staff, if they take an hour and a half off of work tomorrow, it better be for testing. And I'm sure it will be. So that testing should be very successful. And we won't know the results unless the employee voluntarily provides them. That's all I have for COVID. If there's any questions, if not, I'll move on. Okay, under escrow maintenance, there are no escrow accounts being released this month. Still waiting on a final legal opinion on an escrow question, but we can address that next month. There's one connection this month that's a residential. It's my opinion, but Christian, you can disagree with me. I think we're on target from our estimated connection schedule.
Yeah, Joe. So next month, I want to do like a brief summary. Usually after 6 months, I give a summary of where we are compared to our target. As of now, we're on schedule. We have two major projects expected by December deadline. I reached out to developers to see if they're still on that deadline by next month. If not, maybe we would postpone it till a different month. But I think next month I have more to say after I really talk to the developers.
Okay. I brought that up, board members, only because, there was a remark in the audit relative to the revenue for that. So, it's one of our revenue sources, so we got to keep an eye on that. But it's not something we could really speed up or slow down. It's really not on us. Okay, this is a good point to bring up for discussion, waiving the penalty interest fee for late payments.
Right. So as we've been continuing this, last month we discussed extending it through December 31st and then resuming the penalty phase, not in our billing year, or well, not at the start of our billing year or our fiscal year, but rather just with the calendar year. Is there anybody, as Joe's shown, we really haven't had any change in late penalties year over year, or assumed late penalties year over year. Is there anybody feeling strongly that we should not re-implement the fees starting January 1st?
Chairman, I'm for re-implementing it. I don't oppose it. As I'm hearing you, I'm thinking that the holidays are coming, and the way the COVID situation is, if there's impact of these holidays, I don't know how people or taxpayers will take it. I don't know what other customers are thinking. I mean, I'm for re-implementing it. We have extended it up to the end of the year. It might be time to impose it. But I'm struggling with this thought that after holidays, if the COVID increases, I don't know how that will impact.
Okay. So I guess the one thing that hearing that our next meeting is January 5th. So if for some reason we see suddenly a drastic change that's only 5 days into the month, and really late fees wouldn't go into effect unless they're really delinquent from November, or a commercial or industrial customer, then probably the next true billing cycle that would be impacted is the February one. So that would give us time to reevaluate in January, I believe. So as a worst case scenario, if you're comfortable with that.
That's a good point, actually. Yeah, sure.
Okay. I'll go around the table, or around my screen. So Commissioner Ford, any thoughts?
I think we should reinstitute the penalties.
Okay. Okay. Next on my screen, I see Mr. Schmidt.
I'm good with leaving it the way it is.
Meaning going into effect January 1st, with the penalties resuming January 1st?
No, I'm good with just not resuming the penalties.
Okay, so you want to keep extending the penalty forgiveness. Is that correct? Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah, I don't see a reason just because of a date that we stop the penalties. I think that we've got a couple of more months of this problem going on. So I could see extending it for another couple of months. I know we want to do it 1 month at a time, but I would continue to extend the waiver for the next month.
Okay. All right, Mr. Anbarison. You're muted.
Sorry about that. I'm leaning towards imposing it as of January, but I think we will wait for what happens with the stimulus. I think, if the government comes back and are going to help, people are going to get some assistance from the government in terms of extended unemployment and maybe another check. I think we might want to begin the fees as of January. But I think we can wait to see what happens in January meeting and then make that determination.
Okay. And Commissioner DeVoe.
I think that we should continue the extension through January and reevaluate after January.
Okay, so we've got almost a split vote down here. So I will leave it to the commissioners that those if somebody, I guess at this point we would need a motion to implement. So if there's somebody that feels strongly compelled to extend through January 31st the penalty forgiveness, then we would need a motion. If not, we'll let the penalty forgiveness expire December 31st and can revisit at the January meeting.
I provided my comments, but I don't think I'm allowed to make a motion.
That is correct.
All right. Hearing no motion at this time, I guess the overall consensus is to let it expire, but we can, to Commissioner DeVoe and Commissioner Schmidt's point, let's put this back on the table for January 5th meeting, and let's see what happens in the next month. Mr. Executive Director.
Okay. Expires December 31st, but revisit next meeting. Okay. All right, and let me continue my report. Okay, MCUA, I'm going to ask Christian to give an update on where we are with them and the estimated payment.
Oh yeah, so basically it's on track. So last week MCUA has been charging us more amount of money. We looked at the data. We found out that they've been charging us due to a high BOD estimate. So we requested basically a lower bill to be adjusted. Basically, in that lower bill, they're going to reduce the estimated. Oh no. I'm sorry. So this is for next year. So maybe about this quarter. So for next year, what they're going to do, they're going to raise the BOD value higher, so it's more in line with the actual data. And so Joe, that doesn't really kick into effect till next year. So currently it's.
We're currently sending them more money than they're asking.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Just so our expense report doesn't punch us in the gut at the end of the year.
Correct. Yeah. So once that reduction happens, then I could let you guys know.
Can you expand? Remind me what the acronym stands for?
Oh yeah. So biochemical oxygen demand. I know it's a lot to say.
It's we all get into it. I get into it at work also, and I'm used to acronyms. It's just for public also to have a thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
And when you say it would start next year, are we talking calendar year, fiscal year, billing year?
It's Chairman. It's really not even that much of an issue. Is at the end, their last bill, the last quarterly bill, is a reconciliation. All we're doing is, trying to align their quarterly bill with what we're sending them anyway.
Okay, but so what's their billing cycle with us? Do we know the dates?
So I have to check with Jenny, I think, but top of my head, I think they actually do calendar. So it should be soon.
Okay, so when you say next year, you literally mean 2021 then. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Southbound Brook, there's nothing to update on that as reported by Eric. I will note, I'm going to swing over back to our expense report. if you looked at the expense report, you'll notice the Southbound Brook line items at 129% already. And I identified that as a red flag. So April and I are going to begin investigating why it's at 129%. I want to know did we make a budgetary oopsie doozy, or is something else wrong? There's also something else in the expense report I caught. It's under line 9240 under industrial monitoring. We accidentally coded an invoice from CSL Services. CSL Services did the flow reading monitoring for the Somerset Street pump station earlier in the year, if you recall. And we put that invoice under line 9240, and it really should probably be under line 9210. So if you notice the change next month, that'll be because I recoded that invoice and put it in a different line item.
I just have a question. Where are you looking? Because when I think you said the expense report. Where am I finding this?
Yeah, that wasn't in our packet. Last that I checked.
I'll email that out to you with my highlighted notes.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Ford. I was questioning that too. I thought I was losing it for a moment.
Okay, and if that wasn't given to you, that's my fault. I apologize. I'll make sure you get all the reports.
And I think that brings up something that I may or may not have brought up before when we're discussing a report like that. Is it possible to put that report, we've discussed a lot of different reports this evening as we do every meeting. Is it possible for the host to put that report up on the screen so we can see the exact document while it's being discussed?
Yeah, actually,
good point. Thank you.
Well, not now.
The old joke, be careful what you wish for.
Yeah, so I'm highlighting the line in question. It should be in this line.
Can you make it a little smaller?
Hold on.
Thank you.
So, so this jumped out at me, and then I made some phone calls, and Scott and I discussed it really should be in this line. And then this line jumped out at me, so I called Christian and I called April, and April and I decided we need to look into this. I just really need to know what's going on here. And that's the only thing. And this is our expenditure percentage right here. And this is where we are in the year. We're at 42% of our budget cycle, and we're at 28% of expenditures.
So those invoices will show up this month for payment, right?
What invoices?
So those invoices that you just talked, 9210 and 9240, I believe those numbers, the line numbers that we talked. Those are the real invoices that you're paying this month?
All right, so let me highlight this right here.
It's southbound Brook charges, right?
Right, no, so this 11,400,
right.
I'm gonna move it to this.
I got that.
To that cell.
These are all the invoices that you show up when I go to sign those, right? I'm just asking that.
Yeah, we already paid these. It's just where in my budget am I going to draw that money from?
Oh, okay. All right.
That's all. So I just wanted to be fully transparent with you. So when you see this number go down and this number go up next month, you'll know why.
All right.
So, and I also want to know why we spent $6,400 or paid $6,400 and change to Southbound Brook when we only budgeted $5,000. I want to know if it was my mistake in the budget or maybe they sent us an extra invoice that we didn't catch.
I think people on that side of town might be flushing the toilets a little bit more.
Yeah, well, we pay them a flat rate. It's a X number of homes, and it's $82. I think it's $82 a quarter per home.
Joe, I understand. I was making a joke about with residents over on that side of town.
Okay.
Scott, is Marcy Street connected into South Bamborough?
No.
Oh, okay. So it's not the Marcy Street resident doing that.
This is Marcy Street goes to the North Crossing over by Cedar Grove. And
All right. So it is not the Marcy Street resident staying home for the past 2.5 weeks being quarantined. All right.
Okay.
Sorry. All joking aside, yes, please. I know I say that a lot. Please look into why that's higher. Is that just we have more connections? Is it and then we're getting billed, or are they renegotiating the contract without telling us they renegotiated?
It'll be a simple catch. I just got to find out.
Okay.
I just got to look under their last 4 or 5 invoices and see what's going on.
Okay.
Nothing under Union. New Brunswick water sewer bill. We already discussed that. I don't think we're going to discuss any sensitive details tonight, so I don't think we need executive session on that. I'm going to ask Christian to summarize the archiving of documentation.
Yeah, no problem. So where we are is we found a scanning vendor, IMR scanning vendor, and basically they provided a quote. Other scanning vendors did too. Obviously we got 3 quotes, but they're the cheapest one. Per page, they're the cheapest. So where we are, we have a strategy of how to go forward. Basically, they're going to scan a PDF document. We discussed how we're going to name the documents, location of where it's going to be on the file. And basically, the next step forward is just to authorize it, to sign the quote, and they're ready for action. So whenever, I guess, we feel like we have the right amount of money and it feels right, then we're good to go.
Thank you, Christian. The next actionable item to discuss is, Christian, you're still on stage. Talk about the status of the community virus monitoring with Rutgers.
That was very interesting. So basically, Joe had me do some research to see if we could monitor the township to help us track with COVID using wastewater. So maybe analyzing wastewater can give us some clues of where the outbreak came from. So I did some research. I talked to other sewage authorities, and there's a place next to us called Rutgers, and they're basically doing the analyzing and the results for free. So I have a contact there. Her name's Nicole. So I have a meeting with her tomorrow. I may postpone it just so I could get Joe there too. And she's very actually excited. Yeah, she's excited to talk to us and curious to see if she can help us. So that's where we are right now.
Okay.
Great job, Christian. Thank you for doing that. So we recently conducted smoke testing of the Brookline Avenue neighborhood area of the Somerset Street pump station. Unfortunately, it didn't really bring us any results that we could utilize, just part of it. But what it did do, based upon the results, not receiving the results we were looking, we didn't catch anybody. It just really overemphasizes that we need a Somerset Street pump station service area rehabilitation, like we've done on Foxwood, like we're doing Marcy Street. We really need to put this at super high priority. For some of you may need to be reminded, we built this pump station and it soon became overloaded when it rains, and we're going to rehab it. And even after that rehab, we're still going to need an external bypass pump. That's simply because the numbers have changed from when we originally designed the pump station to now. And we know that the flow increases when it rains. So water's getting in our system. We tried to find those sources with the smoke testing, which were unsuccessful. So this is a system problem. It must be, one would have to conclude that it's coming in through cracks and joints and leaks and everywhere else. So that's the best. I think that's the best opinion for our strategy going forward. Howard, do you want to chime in on that?
Yeah, I talked to Scott a little bit about this. So in essence, what it sounds to me like is happening is when it rains, the Somerset Street pump station turns into a stormwater pumping station. It's not a wastewater pumping station anymore at that point. And there's a fairly extensive joints that are failing. And so as the groundwater gets as the rainwater becomes groundwater, it's going almost directly into the sewer through these joints. I think it's exacerbated by the stormwater system. So Scott was telling me that there are fairly extensive blockages in the stormwater system, and that's creating kind of a reservoir of a lot of water. And the joints within the stormwater system are completely porous. They're not meant to contain the water like a wastewater system is. So this water is kind of super saturating the ground, and I think that's what's making its way into the sewers. The numbers are just extremely high when you consider what they should be for an area of that size. So I think you're right to prioritize it.
Yeah. So I just don't want to be the one to tell Scott that we're going to do that before the Commerce Street pump station.
So just so you all know, myself included, we like to sleep at night. And when we have these rain events, there's not much sleep that gets had. So it's really no way to operate. So this is definitely a priority.
So Scott, I guess along what Howard just said, do you want to take over stormwater management?
No.
Okay.
I'm glad Scott said yes. I can't wait to start.
Joe Gamel's been begging me for 2 years now, I think, to try to take it on. All serious. Okay. Scott, do you know where the blockage is by any chance? Or Howard, do we know where the blockage is in the stormwater system?
So I'm not going to necessarily call them blockages. There's just a lot of debris not allowing water to flow through these pipes like they should, which allows them to pool. And like Howard said, these are old storm pipes. They leak like sieves, and that's okay. Unfortunately, we have old pipe underneath, and that water is going directly into our system.
Right. What I was curious is if we have a rough idea of the area. It's not going to be anytime soon because for the same reasons that we're at a lower staff. But if that's maybe something that we can work with the municipality on to maybe clean out, get some of the stormwater drains cleaned out, see if maybe that can let you sleep at least on the lighter nights, and then the heavier nights is when you don't. But again, I don't. The same as us. I don't think we'll be able. The municipality will be handle it until full staffed again. But
yeah, I mean, I have some ideas, but I think I had it in my report is we just got to keep in mind. I'm sure there's still some pumps in the area.
Yeah.
Okay. The reason we didn't find them during the smoke test is because I know if I was going to input a sump pump into my sanitary sewer, I would put a check valve, right? So that if the sewer overflowed or backed up, that didn't come into my house through my sump pump. So, it's very well possible that there's check valves on these sump pump discharge lines, not allowing smoke to enter. So we're not finding it that way. The other thing that we did find was many houses, because of the age, the way they built them, they used the 3-trap system. So you basically have 3 traps typically in the basement. If they didn't have a basement, they're outside. It's 3 traps. So they hold water and the smoke's not going to get past the trap. That's what it's meant for. So odors don't go back into the house. And the smoke's not going to go into the house. So, there was a lot of obstacles, but, we were really thought we were going to find, that big storm pipe connected to the sanitary pipe. And hey, we got it. And unfortunately, it just wasn't there. It was 3 days of a lot of bust and hump to get it all done. The company that came in, they were very good, along with our guys, and we just didn't find it.
Scott, do you have a rough estimate on how much rain from the rain gauges yesterday?
2.2.
Okay, so we're talking a significant storm yesterday.
So anywhere, just so you know, so anywhere we get up to 3/4 of an inch of rain or more, we're definitely at 3/4. We're definitely in jeopardy of having to use the bypass of Somerset Street. Anything over that 3/4 of an inch of rain, yeah, most likely we're on bypass for several hours.
Right, and what I would say is to the municipal liaison, it seems that the municipalities dropped the ball on the sump pump connection that was started back in 2018 to try to resolve that. Maybe we should ask if that could be a priority for next year to try to get something in line. I know Phil Haverkovich had asked me to look into that. I tried and I sort of have dropped the ball on that. So between two of us, maybe we can get that going again.
Well, Scott, and anybody else that, well, most likely everybody knows this, but Carl Hauck is in the process of rewriting our stormwater management plan, mandated by the state. It has to be ready by, I think, March 2nd. So what relevance that has to what we're talking about here, I don't know. But if there's anything that you guys think that would be helpful that could go into the stormwater management plan, I think it would be productive to reach out to Carl Hauck and let him know your thoughts on what you think needs to be done and where it needs to be done in the township.
We can certainly do that. So just a note, where we got stuck with the sump pump is how to inspect it. So the issue is that the way the ordinance is currently written is you have to have a suspicion of a connection, of an illegal connection. And as Scott just said, it's very difficult because if you do it right, if you want to get around the system, you probably did it right. So we're not going to be able to suspect it easily. There were several attempts to include it, sort of lump it into other inspections, and it became a constitutional question of illegal search of premise then at that point. So it basically sounds like anything short of a CO inspection at the sale of a house, that might be the extreme. I don't want to speak more on that because that is the absolute extreme. So I don't want to say that's where the town is heading, but that was the absolute extreme thought of if we desperately needed to start having a way to enforce this. But certainly, Howard, Scott, based on the information you have, if you know something about the area, to Commissioner Schmidt's point, then let's get it over to Carl, and maybe he has to make some revisions to help with that area. And now's the time to do it.
I just wanted to ask a question. Are we sure that the blockage of the stormwater drains, the overflow, the leaked water, just then gets below and somehow seeps through the drainage, our pipes? Is that large enough somehow seepage into our pipes to show this kind of a volume increase? It's kind of, I'm having difficulty agreeing to that. I'm sure Carl is going to bring up the same question if we tell him that this is a problem of the leaked water.
So I don't believe we could sit here and just point the fingers at DPW, right? So our pipes are definitely deeper than their pipes. So, any water that's leaking out of their pipes is going to come in. It's going to come into us, through bad joints, cracks, fractures. So we're going to take on that water. I'm not going to sit here and just pinpoint, that everything's DPW's fault, because it's not. We did the TV work in this area prior to testing. We found an abundance of failed joints, cracks, fractures, and so forth. We just didn't believe that was the full contributor to the amount of flow we see during a rain event. So, I just think what's happening is what happened with the smoke is as we input it into the sewers, we saw it coming up between the pavement and the storm basin at the curb line. So, right away we see it coming out. We thought, hey, we got smoke coming out of a storm pipe. This is a storm pipe connected to the sewer pipe. So we put our camera in, and that wasn't the case. It was just the smoke following the voids in the soil, least path of resistance, and coming out between the pavement and that basin, not actually in the storm sewer. So, again, we're the deepest, so we're taking on the water.
Yeah, Scott, if I could add there, that may be a source as well of the water getting in. We saw the smoke around the basins. The smoke is coming out, the water can go in that same pathway.
100%.
Also, I'm not sure about the age of the water mains in that area, but if you recall, and commissioners may recall, we had quite a bit of difficulty when we did Boxwood, when we were doing lining work with leaky water mains contributing into this sanitary as well.
So I don't know if you recall, so months ago, we were doing the TV work out there. Carl's team was out there with putting sensors out on different valves, hydrants, mains, and trying to identify leaks. They came up with a couple. They made some repairs, 4 to my knowledge. But again, they're old, and I believe, Will, you're probably aware of this, right? I think they're drawing up some more water main projects in that area because they are old. So, that's forthcoming, I guess. The other things that we did when we were TVing and we were finding abundance of clean water is I would call the water department crew out. They would come out and take a chlorine sample. Obviously, if you have a high chlorine residual in the water, it's probably city water. We weren't finding that. So it just leads me to believe it's stormwater, rainwater.
Yeah, so Brookline, at our insisting, which is how we're sharing the cost of paving, at Brookline was already replaced last year, or this year. Brookline water mains were replaced. I think Home Street, part of it was either just repaired or replaced. There's a few more streets in that area that are on next year's project list and the year after. So yes, that's a target area, as well as, like you mentioned, Scott, parts of the Levitt development are a high focus area. And you're talking a couple $1 million a year investment by the water department also for repair. So yes, Scott, I heard we broke Home Street somehow. We were nowhere near it. No, I'm just kidding.
So just to touch real quick on your comment about Brookline. So Brookline, that's all been relined manhole to manhole.
Mm-hmm.
All LCR connection at the interface where the lateral connects to the main has all been lined already. That was done as part of our initial small rehab project we did prior to Somerset Street pump station being built. So, as far as the paving goes, I know we're splitting it with them. So I don't know what their intention, if they're going to do it in the spring now.
Right.
If so, it can be paved as far as we're concerned.
Yeah. So that's they're just letting it settle like they did over on Willow. Yep. And then that'll be the spring, and then they'll come with their handout for the check. They'll come quickly for the check. Scott, so last night, how long were the guys on, including yourself?
So what we did was we actually went on bypass around 2 in the afternoon yesterday, and we actually stayed on bypass till 4:30 this morning when we were able to go back to the station pump operation. During all this, what we did was I split up crews. So we had, over that period, we had 3 crews that came in like they did like half-hour shifts, 5-hour shifts, whatever it worked out to be, between the overlap of, each other. And a couple other pump station alarms that had came in. So that's what it was. It was basically 2:30 in the afternoon yesterday till 4:30 this morning.
And typically what you're seeing it, and this is, you're typically seeing it's an instantaneous. It's not 3 days or like 2 days later, right? It's relatively during the storm, right?
So during the storm, yes, not necessarily instantaneous. So we had a lot of heavy rain yesterday morning.
Mhm.
Again, it didn't really affect us until we got our first alarm around, I guess it was 2 p.m. yesterday. And then by 2:30, we were on bypass. So from the time we got the first alarm for high level, I mean, within that half hour, we knew we had to, get going.
Right. So that's why that's what's leading you to suspected stormwater, because if it was just stuff sitting there, if it was like a high water table plus a water main break, we typically were seeing that like a day after the storm, or let's say 12 hours after the storm, correct?
Yeah, and if it was all water main breaks, we'd see it all the time.
Right.
And our flows go way down a day or two after the storm. I mean, it's groundwater.
Yep. And this is, so again, we have a bunch of new commissioners. This is what we saw in Foxwood that Scott went through, that they would, and what Joe just alluded to is we would see water mains, or they would see water gushing in while they were trying to reline. This is something that leads us to suspect, or it leads our staff to, and engineers to suspect that it's more of a stormwater event. So we'll get there. I know that you, again, it sounds like the typical shift for a rainstorm is about 12 to 14 hours on bypass,
Correct.
That's a lot of extra time for our staff to be in, especially for a brand new pump station. So we definitely have to prioritize this.
Yeah, I mean, yesterday was just one of those, ugly storms, right? It started to clear up in the late afternoon, and then we had that bad thunderstorm come in around, what was it, like 6 o'clock?
Yep.
I mean, and it was like buckets. And we just, we lost it. Not that we lost to where we overflowed, but we lost where we were in capacity in the wells. So, it just went on for a longer period.
Okay. All right. Any questions on this topic?
All right, thank you, Chairman. I'm almost done. I need to remind the board members regarding the TD Bank and Bank of New York signatory documents. Still waiting, and April, correct me if I'm wrong, we're still waiting for completion by Commissioner Ambarrison and Assistant Secretary Treasurer to complete those documents so we can conclude the signatory document.
I'll get them out back to April tomorrow.
And remind me who the Assistant Secretary Treasurer is?
Commissioner Ford.
Commissioner Ford, how best should we get your signature?
Do I have the document? That's the question.
No, they were sent to Commissioner Ambarrison, and he has them in his possession, and he will scan them back to me tomorrow.
Okay. I can do it tomorrow.
Okay.
All right, and the next topic, the board needs to officially decide if you are changing the meeting date and or time for January 5th meeting.
Thank you. Thank you for that reminder. So, so January 5th, council has decided to schedule a reorg. For the past 3 years, I have insisted that it not coincide with the authority meeting. I didn't want to be the pain in the behind for the 4th year in a row. So what I want to propose to each of the board members is, would you consider us moving the meeting time up to either 5:30 or 6 o'clock, with the understanding that we would be done by 7 o'clock, so that Ram and I can then switch. Luckily, it's virtual, so we could just switch cameras basically, or virtual meetings. Would anybody be opposed? I think 6 o'clock should give us enough time to do the business portion of the meeting, get through the public session, get brief updates. We'll have the quick discussion about the penalties, and then pay their bills. And if there's any outstanding questions or updates, we can reach out to the staff or schedule a special meeting later in the month. If that sounds okay with everybody, then I would ask that, is there a motion to adjust the start time for the January 5th meeting to 6 p.m.
I'll go for it. Motion, Tiwari.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second, DeVoe.
Okay. Roll call for this, please.
Mr. M. Berenson,
Yes.
Ms. DeVoe,
Yes.
Ms. Ford,
Yes.
Mr. Tawari,
Yes.
and Chairman Galtieri.
Yes. Thank you all for making the accommodation for us. I appreciate that because it'll be 2 months in a row that the meeting starts at 6.
So,
I will send I'll just so you know, I'll send something into the paper because we've already published our schedule for 2021, so I'll get that in the paper.
Thank you. This should give you the approximate month notice or more than the time notice. Okay.
And everywhere else we publish it April.
Yep, Township here and the papers. Will do.
So my last item, I just want to remark this was a very interesting month for me as well. It included Scott being away from work a little time. I want to recognize that the operations staff, due to his management and decisions, was just operated absolutely smooth. He set it up right. Everybody was in position to not only do their jobs, but they were managed well. They communicated with me very well when needed, and even got through the smoke testing. Scott, you look healthy. I'm glad you're back. I also want to point out that in the last month I got quarantined twice. One from a contact, and then the second from actually contracted COVID-19. I just want to express my gratitude to April and Scott. They really covered things superior, and also the admin staff who was taking my calls at any time that I woke up and could talk. They were sending me emails and generating reports and answering questions at all times of the day. But everybody, the quintessential professionals, starting with Scott and April and all the staff that I report to them. It was a lesson for me that I should not have dropped my guard for one moment. When I did, I got sick, and so did my wife. It was a lesson to appreciate your health, and a good reminder to keep yourself surrounded by good friends and good professionals like I am here at the Authority. And I really appreciate April and Scott and all the staff that report to them. The month went by a lot better because of them. And that concludes my report, Chairman.
Okay. With that, Scott, do you want to give your operations report?
Sure. Just a quick comment just so you know. So we did perform the smoke testing when I got back from my hiatus. So I was present for that. What I did was, obviously not being here for the month of October, I at least for the board meeting for the 4th, I guess it was, I created two months worth of a report for you, just so you understand what the guys were doing. We did perform our annual services on all 9 of our channel and rail-mounted grinders. That consists of 8 pump stations. We also performed the annual services of all 30 submersible sewer pumps. That is at 14 separate pump station sites. The reason that's so important there, if you go down, you'll see for Preston Highlands, for 10 Mile, for Sunflower, where we rebuilt pumps there. During the services, when we found that, the oil was now mixing with the water, it's an obvious indication that the seals have gone bad. So we had alluded to this earlier, is by doing this work in-house, we're not only saving money by doing the work ourselves, but we're also controlling how long our equipment is out of service. So if we're doing the work ourselves, it's more important to us to get it back in service versus if it's sitting in somebody else's shop. So the guys, they know what they're doing. They've gone to training. They've gone to school. You rebuilt the pumps in-house, and we had them back in service rather quick, within a day or so. So that's kudos to everybody. Under the Stonehenge, Sunflower, and 10 Mile Run pump stations, 10 Mile we added this time. This was where we're injecting high pressure water using our jet truck to flush out the force mains, the pressure pipe. We found that this has helped to reduce pump run times by pushing some of that slime and sludge out of the force mains. Done in house again, it's proven to work for us. We were able to reduce some of our feed rates under our odor and corrosion control this past 2 months due to some of the sewer water cooling, temperatures cooling, and there were no odor complaints for the 2 months. Performed various inspections for both developers as well as the township, and with the township, it was related to the road paving projects they had going. It's more of inspecting manholes prior to the work being done, during the work when they're raising, and then we do a punch list for the township. Under our collection system, the gravity sewer flushing program that we do, which is typically a 2-year township-wide program. As we all know, earlier this summer, we had kind of got away from it for a little bit due to the COVID. Then we got back to it, the proper PPE. We have gained a little ground. We are right now currently around 88% of our goal. The end of this month, we should be around 100. So we're a little behind, but I'm very happy where we are considering what we were up against. We're basically to the point where we're pulling all the runs to the crossings along Easton Avenue. And at that, similar time, we'll be flushing and cleaning Easton Avenue, which we will go through that same process with the whole Nixle alert, which worked for us last time. But we've gained some ground. I'm very happy where we are.
Scott, traffic might be lighter this time.
That is true. That is true. So all the authority's easements have been cut for the second time for the season. So for 2020, all the easements have been cut and completed. The guys had rebuilt 3 separate E1 grinder pumps in the Griggstown section of town. Basically, when we get the call, we remove the faulty pump, install a operating unit, take the old one back, take the damaged one to the shop and rebuild it and put it back into service. We assisted DPW a couple times this past month. Basically, they had milled out their DPW property to repave. In doing so, they broke their sewer cleanout, dropping tons of millings down their sewer pipe, blocked up their line. So, Carl called me, no problem, went right over there. We were able to vac it out, flush it out, and then we even TV'd it for them to make sure we got all the fines out. So they were very happy. Similar thing over at the animal shelter. This is typically maybe once a year, once every other year. We get a call for, the drains getting jammed up in the animal shelter that ultimately drains to the collection system on the municipal complex. This month, we also had, about 2 weeks ago, again, when I came back, we had our contractor. We had talked about this a couple of months ago. We had hired a contract. We got a couple of proposals to install a 1-inch copper water service for the future upgrade of the East Millstone pump station. The reason we did this earlier was for the fact that you all know there's a big county project going on over there with the road widening, bike lanes and stuff. The county's contractor is using the East Millstone or Millstone Valley Firehouse parking lot as a staging area. They made an agreement with the firehouse people to repave that whole lot for them for the use of the parking area. So, to be good neighbors, spoke with at the time Brian and Joe about maybe we should get this water service in so we're not tearing up their brand new pavement. And everybody agreed. So that service is in the ground now. Basically, what will happen is Carl will do his tap when we're ready for him to do the tap. And then our contractor for the East Millstone pump station upgrade will take it from the fence line, which is where we stop it, into the new fab building. Any questions on that so far? Okay. So, during the past 2 months, the guys respond to various types of complaints. The guys always go there to act professional. If we find that it's not our problem, we try to educate the homeowner the best we can to go the best route for them, so they're not spending money over hand over fist. We had no accidents or injuries for the 2 months of October and November. It's my understanding so I did include October's connection as well as November. So we had one this past month. Total to date is 23.5, and anticipated for this fiscal year is 225.5. Okay, start report.
So just to note, again, to highlight, Scott said they've caught up significantly on the gravity cleaning. Scott, if I may disclose that the average authority aspires to hit a once every 5-year cleaning cycle of their lines, and some of them are much smaller systems. Scott's been able to manage to do it even in COVID in just about 2 years with the guys. So that's again a testament to the work that's being done by our operations team to keep going. So phenomenal. Scott, I will say that I will disclose that one of the residents that complained about the traffic on Easton Ave while you're cleaning, he happens to be on this call right now. So
I kind of figured.
Yeah, so you can go find him tomorrow morning if you want, and thank him for the extra Nixle alerts. With that, Christian, you're on the hook for 202 connections in the next 6 months. So hope you're ready.
Yep.
Any other questions for Scott on operations? All right, moving along. I lost my agenda. All right, committee reports. Nothing. Again, it's already been reported as far as personnel for COVID-19 status. So that's pretty much it. Municipal liaison.
I think we already talked about this. The paving work has been stopped for this winter season. We'll begin back again in the spring at that time, whatever that we are committed to do with the collaboration will continue.
All right, construction looks like you guys might get a break for about a month between Hamilton Street hopefully finishing up on time and before we start tackling Marcy and East Millstone. So maybe there'll be a little downtime there. And safety looks like everybody's been doing well, both physically and also with COVID. So good job all around. All right. On to consent agenda. So the approval of resolutions will be done by consent agenda. All of the items listed below are considered to be of a routine nature, thereby requiring one motion and 1 second for all items. If any member wishes to remove an item or has a question on an item as a part of this consent agenda, please let me know at this time which resolution and we will address any concerns. There's the resolution number 1201-2020-1 for payroll account of $147,586.26. Resolution number 1201-2020-2 operating expense account of $145,112.52. Resolution number 1201-2020-3 general fund in the amount of $13,386.04. Resolution number 1201-2020-4 renewal and replacement in the amount of $307,690.33. And resolution number 1201-2020-5 North Track crossing of $6,529. If there are no questions, concerns, or need to vote on anything separately, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Mr. Ambarenson?
Yes.
Ms. DeVoe?
Yes.
Ms. Ford?
Yes.
Mr. Tawari?
Yes.
And Chairman Galtieri?
Yes. I don't believe there is a need for executive session. Is that correct?
2.5 hours.
Listen, I was told this would be a quick meeting, and somebody decided to talk a little longer. So,
Session to start the holiday season. No, I have no executive session requirements unless the interim executive director has any, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Danielson, anything?
You know, Eric, you were going to get a set of golf balls for Hanukkah, but
8 golf balls? All right. With that, before we conclude, again, I just want to say this year has been a challenging year. Thank you to everybody for stepping up and continuing on. Thank you to the commissioners for adapting and going virtual and tolerating this. Thank you to our staff who have done an amazing job keeping the system going. And thank you to our professionals that have helped support them so they don't go insane in this time. So everybody have a happy holiday season. To you and your family, stay safe over the next couple of weeks in this time, and Happy New Year, and we'll see you on January 5th at 6 o'clock. With that, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor of adjourning the meeting, say aye.
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 Any opposed? 8:45. Thank you, everybody.
Happy holiday.
Aye.